Hello and welcome to another episode of the Game Sports Podcast. The Game is powered by 91 Network. David McCaig here, the host of the game. In this episode, we'll be broken down into two segments. In the first segment, I'll be riding solo, getting into all updates around the National Hockey League, including Auston Matthews being named the 26th captain in Maple Leafs history. In segment two, I'll be joined by Connor Henderson, getting into all updates around the Diamond, including some more blind ranking tests. Let's go. Booyah, and it's time for the Game Sports Podcast. It is your host, David McCaig Jr. Before I get into this first segment, this is just a kind reminder that this will be our last episode until after Labor Day long weekend, as we are now getting into our annual end of summer vacation on the game. So our next edition after this upload will be on either September the 2nd or on September 4th. So make sure you keep an eye on all platforms of where the game is located till that next episode. But in between, we'll be sure to have some clips for you to enjoy, so make sure you are interacting on those. And of course, if some major news comes on in, we will have a breaking news show, absolutely. But just to remind you that this will be our last show until we go on vacation for the next pretty near a couple weeks until the September 2nd or September 4th. And after Labor Day, that's when everything gets going here on the game, back to our normal rotation, as sports definitely pick up as well. So we're very excited for all the big things that are going to be coming here on the game with that, as well as more that you'll have to stay tuned for. Now, to get into this first segment, before Connor comes in to join us on segment two, there is hockey news to get into. And the hockey news that I want to get to is 3 points. Firstly, Yaroslav Askorov has requested a trade, as per reports that you've seen on multiple outlets, most likely if you're following hockey, but has requested a trade from the Nashville Predators, which shouldn't be a surprise to anybody in any regards. And the reasoning to that is, well, when you sign Juuse Saros to a long-term deal, he's still pretty near young goalie in the prime of his career, and one of the best goalies in the National Hockey League. You know that you're going to be playing behind them. Now, this isn't like a Pekka Rinne situation. Rinne was a little bit older, and Saros was obviously patient, but Askorov has some pretty good numbers in the American Hockey League, obviously top goalie prospect throughout the National Hockey League, and we shouldn't be surprised that he is requesting a trade. And speaking of which, as a Toronto fan, speaking openly, I've received numerous text messages today that you think the Toronto Maple Leafs should go for him. Look, I think all teams should go for Yaroslav Askorov if they are able to. And as a Toronto fan, I will say that, sure, I think that would be fantastic. Where's the fit, or what can Toronto do to give Nashville any sense of value in that return for a goaltender? Well, there are options in Toronto, of course. You can look at some of the goaltending. You can look at goaltending prospect Hillaby if you really want to go in that direction. But ultimately, I don't see Toronto as a trading partner with Nashville as much as I would love to see it. I am a huge Yaroslav Askorov fan. But if they do pull it off and you can have a Wall-Askorov tandem, maybe you have to trade Stolarz even though you signed him. Whatever it may be, you get that done. That is my point. If Nashville comes calling you, or you're able to make a trade, you do that, because I think Yaroslav Askorov is going to be a fantastic goaltender, and he's going to be one of the top goaltenders in the National Hockey League going forward. Now, if you asked me for a team that I think is a front runner for Yaroslav Askorov, and you know what, by the time this is uploaded, maybe he gets traded within a 24 hours, but based on Barry Trotz's, well, let's say his comments on the reports, he expects Yaroslav Askorov to report to camp. So I don't think this is going to be something that's done overnight. But if there is somebody that is going to jump in the front of this trade, I just picture the Chicago Blackhawks. Makes sense. It fits their window. Obviously, Bedard, generational talent going into a second year in the league. They've had some top prospects coming through. They could use a star young goaltender to come up through the ranks and get some NHL playing time and kind of grow with this team. I really see the Chicago Blackhawks being a really good fit for Yaroslav Askorov. Now, I had some other individuals tell me that maybe the Calgary Flames would be a fit. Perhaps the Montreal Canadiens would be a fit for Yaroslav Askorov. And speak of the Canadiens, we'll go there in a few moments. And there are fits for those teams, absolutely. But the best fit, based on their window, seems to be the Chicago Blackhawks. Somebody who is NHL ready. I feel Askorov could play at the National Hockey League level. Maybe not take over the reins as number one right away, but kind of split duties. If it's with Mrazek, for example, in Chicago, I think that would make sense. He would get peppered with a lot of shots. He's going to be on a team that's going through that rebuilding phase, but could be a step for him. Maybe he does spend the first year in Rockford. Either way, Yaroslav Askorov being a fit in Chicago, I think would be the best for him. Now, going forward, if we went to Calgary, Montreal, that could also be a fit. There are also other teams that are rebuilding that could be strongly considered. And maybe it is other teams like if it's Utah, or maybe if you're looking at the Ottawa Senators, because you have Allmark, though, does that make sense? No. So ultimately, if you look at the big picture from the east side, Ottawa doesn't really make sense. Buffalo doesn't make sense. Toronto would make sense, but will they do that? The Boston Bruins don't make sense. I don't think New Jersey makes sense. I don't think the New York Rangers make sense. The New York Islanders don't make sense. Pittsburgh Penguins, potentially, but they have Jari, so you'd have to move that out. I don't think Askarov wants to be behind a goalie that has a long-term deal, is my point. And that's why a team that is kind of on the retool, on the rebuild kind of window, that would make more sense, but more on the rebuild window. And that team that just stands out to me is the Chicago Blackhawks. Let me know what you think below. Let me know. Tell me if you think I'm wrong, if you think Chicago's on the front, or if you are a Toronto fan, who would you trade for Askarov? If you're a Montreal fan, who would you trade for Askarov? If you're a Calgary fan, who would you trade? Let me know. But my prediction, Askarov will be a Chicago Blackhawk, but he will start the year in Nashville because Barry Trotz is not going to orchestrate a trade just because someone has requested and have it done in 24 hours. But the value that he can get for Askarov is going to be fantastic. Next point. Patrik Laine to the Montreal Canadiens. What a move by Montreal with Harrison and Pick going over the other way. Look, Laine has had injury problems, okay, but the guy can score goals, and I think this makes Montreal's top six look a little bit more appealing. With Slavkovsky, you got Caulfield, you got Suzuki. I like what Montreal's doing with that top six and with this roster. And despite salary that you're paying Laine, look, there's been injury problems, as I mentioned, but this guy is one of the best snipers in the National Hockey League despite that. And if you can work with his health and work with Laine, maybe limit his role in that 5-on-5 play, maybe more of that special teams, kind of coach him in that regard, which Martin St. Louis will do a fantastic job of, in my opinion. Laine might be really to kind of blossom there in Montreal. I think this is a good fit for the Montreal Canadiens, and it just makes that division even more exciting to watch this upcoming season because who went after Auston Matthews? Patrik Laine. So now Matthews and Laine are going to be in the same division. Even though when they had their first game, when Laine was on Winnipeg, it was that matchup, Laine versus Matthews. We're going to have that matchup now, but in a rivalry game. Not saying Winnipeg and Toronto aren't rivals. They certainly are, but there's nothing like a Montreal-Toronto rivalry, and it's great that Laine is now going to add a little bit of an ingredient to that rivalry as Montreal continues to grow and be a more exciting team to watch. I'm excited to see Montreal kind of go through and take a big step this year. Do I see them as a playoff team? No, I don't. I see them maybe kind of fighting, being there close to the end, but I do not see a team that's going to make the playoffs this year. But I could be wrong, especially if a healthy Laine plays 100% of the games. Heck, if he plays 70-plus games, that's an extra 40 goals that the Montreal Canadiens are going to be able to get, in my opinion. Laine, if he plays 70 games, can be and will be a 35, 40 goal scorer for the Montreal Canadiens, especially on a team like that with Suzuki, Caulfield, who can move the puck around, and it'll be very effective. And that special teams in Montreal is going to be even better now. Good fit. I think going with this trade has shown the Montreal's looking to really take a step this year, and they've done so by improving that top six. I really thought Utah was going to dive into this, even potentially. Call me insane. But I even thought St. Louis would dive into this a little bit because they've been really active, obviously. Speaking of that, offer sheets, it looks like, as of now, Edmonton has not matched Broberg and Holloway, but after moving CC, moving some pieces out, and still bringing in Puck Colson, I think the Edmonton Oilers are still going to match at least the Broberg sheet, if not Holloway, but likely both. And I think that'll be a good move. By the time this is uploaded, I'm sure that will happen. Now, the last point before we go to break, as we try to make sure we stay within the time here, Auston Matthews is now the new captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Look, this was definitely a project in coming. It took months as John Tavares. You can look at the YouTube press conference that Toronto uploaded. It was fantastic to watch. Tavares was pure class. His family is wearing Matthews jerseys. It's great. And Matthews was being Matthews on that stage. Okay, just very simple answers, kind of kept to himself. But ultimately, it seemed that Tavares and Treliving have talked about this for a couple months, and this was a plan. And maybe this was part of the change, or maybe Treliving did send it off to John. I'm sure John didn't go into Treliving's office and was like, I want to get rid of the C, despite what he says. There's obviously a conversation for a little bit of a change and to pass on the torch to a young superstar, a generational talent in this league, and one of the best players on planet Earth. And the Maple Leafs have someone who could be the face of their franchise. It also creates retention for after his newly signed contract. And he said that he wants to be a Leaf forever. So obviously being the captain of this team, if he is the captain that does bring a cup to Toronto, not only will he have a statue on Legends Row, he will be given the key to the city of Toronto and be known as the best captain in Toronto history. So there's a lot of this to the story. Tavares will be there to support him. I think it is a very good move. Yes, if you ask me, I thought Morgan Rielly would have been someone. I've always been a Morgan Rielly fan. He's been there since the start, okay? But look, there's a difference here. Matthews and Rielly, different tier of players. Matthews is their best player. He's been under the wing of Tavares, and we don't see what goes on in that locker room. We see the interviews that he does. There's obviously more to Matthews, and that's what Treliving was touching on, and that's what led to this decision. I think it's a good move, a good step. Tavares obviously will be wearing an A, okay, even though he didn't really dive into that. It's obvious that he will be and be supporting Auston Matthews, because I think Tavares is a good leader in the room vocal-wise. I think from a perspective on the ice, they question how he is because of how he's not a prototypical type captain that you would see that is more vocal than others. But let me tell you something about Johnny. Captain consistent. That's what he was, and that's what he has been for Toronto, despite that we feel that he hasn't lived to his expectations. And by we, I mean the media. I don't even mean fans. I mean the media feel that John may not be living to his expectations, but he has been effective in a Leaf jersey. And you know what? Taking the step back might get the pressure off the shoulders of Johnny a little bit to kind of play his game a little bit back that we used to see on the island. But he's not getting any younger and going into his contract year. So to not be distracted with captaincy and contract year, it's been passed on to Matthews, the face of this team. And Matthews is now the captain of Toronto. And obviously with support of Tavares, Morgan Rielly, I'm sure Marner will still have an A on his jersey. This is a team that is ready to be led by Auston Matthews, and I'm excited to see what it was. I think it's a good choice. I accept it, even though I am a Morgan Rielly believer and fan that he could have wore this C. At the end of the day, it was passed on to the right person. It seemed like he was groomed, and Johnny was ready to pass the torch. All right, I'm going to take a quick breather, and I'm just going to remind you before I bring Connor in, of course, that this will be our last edition until we go on vacation. And I got to share, this week is not only my birthday, but it's also my first anniversary this upcoming weekend. And we're going to be going, my wife and I, to a Toronto Blue Jays and Los Angeles Angels ball game while we're at a wedding in Toronto. So there's lots to celebrate. There's very much looking forward to this vacation. But make sure if you have any comments or if you want to reach out to me to discuss sports, I'm always available. All right, enough of me talking. Can't believe I stayed within the 15 minutes of this first segment. I'm going to take a breather, take a sip, and we're going to be talking to Connor in our Strike Zone segment here on The Game. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Game Sports Podcast. I am joined by none other than the one, the only, the amazing, the ever amazing Rookie of the Year. If you know, you know. I say that every time. Connor Henderson, my friend. How's it going?
I'm doing good, Dave. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. You know what? It's been a weekend. I've had a lot go on this weekend, travel, etc. Lots going up next weekend. Going to Toronto for a wedding and going to see the Jays and Angels, actually, anniversary weekend. It's my birthday week this week. Then the week after next weekend, I got another wedding, but it's out at camp. So there's a lot going on still, okay? And that's why it's well-deserved that we have a little bit of vacation coming up on the show. But we can't, going into vacation, we're going to make sure we end the show with a bang. And the things that are banging right now are, of course, baseball. And there's a lot that we're going to kind of get into, or a lot that we can get into. But, of course, we're going to talk about the update around the diamond. But I got some blind tests and some stuff because we had some interaction on that, and I loved it. But I got to say, back to your question, because I kind of went down a rabbit hole there, which I always do. I'm good, man. It's busy. But summer's coming to an end. And you can just tell, because it's been windy as hell out here, here in Sault Ste. Marie. I'm not too sure how it is where you're at, but it's been windy. It's been a bit cooler.
Yeah, no, I stepped outside on the walk home from work today, and the air just felt like fall, and it spooked me.
Yeah, like London, Hamilton, all that area too. Windy, partly cloudy. It seems like all across Ontario, it's been, the weather has been a little bit. Seems like summer is starting to go down, but you know what? Looking at the long range, I hopefully there is some good weather. Okay, because I'm not ready. I'm not ready for fall or winter, Connor. Okay, I'm not ready, my friend. I'm not ready.
I'm with you.
I'm not ready. All right, baseball. You know what? Honestly, Connor, around the world of baseball, you and I talked on our previous edition. There's been, we can talk about the Jays and Tigers till we're blue in the face about a lot of things, but I mentioned one thing the other episode was pay the man to Vladdy. I just gotta say, I don't want to get into too much Blue Jays here because of course, I think there's obviously other news we can get into, and I just gotta reiterate, pay the man. Okay, I'm gonna say that every week until they pay the man. Okay, pay the man. And Chris Bassett had a very good quote that I want to share this week, and he said, in short, he said we were going to give Shohei Ohtani $700 million in his basket, but it didn't end up working out. And that was what he said this year was a little bit of the starting point to 2024 season, being a disappointment for the Jays. But I call that an excuse. And I said it on our show way back before the season started. Okay, you're going to spend $700 million there. They should have spent it on other players. They should have just said, okay, we didn't get them. Let's go ahead and spend elsewhere. And they didn't. Okay, so this excuse train of this year, 2024 is coming to an end for the Blue Jays and can't come fast enough. But there's a lot of good young talent that we're seeing. Will Wagner, that's where I wanted to go with this Blue Jays point. Give the kid thumbs up. He's looking fantastic. Thank you, Yusei Kikuchi and Joey Loperfido. So I'm seeing some of these young guys coming up. The season's lost. It's good to see some of these guys do a good job. The Tigers, look, I'll say something about the Tigers very quick. If they could finish the season 500, I think that'd be a good goal. For both the Tigers and the Blue Jays, I know it kind of hurts the draft pick thing, but I think they're both at a point where, well, more so Tigers, got some good prospects, having goals for the end of the season. That's where teams that are out of the picture got to look to doing. But a team that surprised me this year, Connor, was the Texas Rangers. They are 11 games under 500. They're defending World Series champions. Okay. Seems like they're having a little bit of a hangover. Okay. But that division, the American League West, I think it's not the easiest division in the AL, but it's the second easiest division in the AL. And there's teams that are still at the bottom. The Athletics, the Angels, teams that just can't seem to get over that hump. Poor Mike Trout. Too bad he didn't get traded, right? But overall, the playoff picture for the AL is it's not looking set. Okay, there's still movement that can happen. But you got the obvious teams that are going to be in there. The Orioles, the Yankees, the Guardians, the Twins are looking really good. I'm really liking, though, the Guardians and the Canadian connection with Josh Naylor, Jose Ramirez. You got to give credit to the Guardians. They really bounced back from last year, Connor, right? Like, this is a team that could make a splash in the AL playoffs this year.
For sure. They're taking advantage of what is a notoriously easy division, and good on them. I mean, they've got the Chicago White Sox in there that are having one of the most atrocious seasons in modern recollection, alongside the Detroit Tigers, who, a lot of people had as dark horse, wild card contenders this year, came out to a great pitching start and have completely fallen off the rails. And I mean, a 500 finish at this point would be decent for them, but understand that that's below the bar that was set going into the year. And the fact that they are rolling out like two starting pitchers, Tarek Skubal, who's incredible, and then 3 out of every 5 games just seems to be a bullpen game only now that Flaherty has been traded. It's a sad state for them. Good on the Guardians for taking advantage of a poor division.
Yeah, I like seeing the Canadians do good. I think we're seeing a lot of good talent come up in Canadian baseball with the Naylor brothers, and the list goes on. So I'm not going to – obviously, Vlad's considered Canadian, but he doesn't go by that when he plays the international stage. But there's Canadian ball players really coming up, and the Guardians are on the forefront of that, of course. Tyler Black, his dad, is a friend of the show with the Brewers. It's great. Over in the NL, Connor, you got the Phillies leading the way in the other division, the Brewers who are leading the way in the Central, so Phillies in the East, and then you have the Dodgers, of course, who are closely behind by the Padres in the West. And everyone knows that I'm sometimes a sucker for the Cubs and Padres on this podcast, and I guess it's just one of those teams that, don't normally do well. And the Dodgers, though, they are the, what do you want to call it, the evil empire, right? I guess that's the Yankees. But, I mean, on the other division, that's the team that everyone's got a goal to chase, right? You got Ohtani there. You got Mookie Betts. You got a lot of talent there on the Dodgers. But I got to give kudos this year to the Brewers. I know they had a good built team, but I didn't think they'd be a team leading the way in the Central. But look at the Cubs. They're not living up to snuff. The Reds took a step back after last year looking like something that's going to be exciting with all that young talent. And the Pirates, who had a great start, went back to reality, but they got a stud on the mound that is literally the face and future of MLB pitching. But you got to say the Brewers, that picture overall, the Braves are in a wild card spot. The Braves, like, this year has had a lot of good storylines, but I think it's safe to say with the Brewers being 72-52, despite the division being a little bit not as expected this year, you got to give kudos to that Brewers organization and a team that hasn't won the World Series. I don't think it's going to win the World Series, but certainly a team that could be watched and is a little dark horse going in the playoffs for the NL. Brewers, Connor, there might be a dark horse in the playoffs this year. They might, just like the Guardians, that's probably another dark horse this year.
Yeah, it's always nice to see those sorts of teams, especially when there's some hope that people can counteract the wicked witches of the West being the Dodgers and the East being the Yankees. So whenever you get a team in those central divisions that can put up a fight, it's really fun to see.
100%. I'm excited to see the playoffs as that's just coming around the corner. Fall baseball, then it's great because you have the baseball playoffs, hockey season's right around there, football's back. Oh, the sports to talk about is endless. 100%. Now, Connor, look, we're going to table, obviously when we come back, we're going to see more of a clearer playoff picture after the vacation about what's going on. But I want to make sure we used our time today to talk a little bit about the updates. But as I talked about in the beginning opener, we got some tests to put you through, okay? And if people didn't tune in last week, I'm not going to explain what a blind ranking is. If you don't know what it is, just look at our page. You know exactly what that is. You can listen to last week. But I put Connor through a pretty good one last week, and he actually did a very good job on it. In comparison to Alex Parr's results, Alex Parr is not doing the greatest on these, okay? He kind of shoots himself in the foot a little bit early, tip. But, Connor, I got a variety today, okay? And I'm going to keep it interesting a little bit. And then I got a little men's league question for you at the end. Yes, men's league question. Connor's eyes are already wide. That's good. That's what I want to hear. But before we get to that, we're going to do player rankings. We'll do 2 player ranking tests. We're going to talk about the AL MVP, which is kind of a test. And then we're going to do logo test. But with the logos, I'm going to give you the logos and you're going to rank them. So you got the blind ranking, you got your opinion, and then you got a rating with logos, and then we got my one-off men's league question. So hopefully everyone follows that. Okay? First, player ranking test. Starting our blind ranking with player rankings. I'm going to name it. You rate it. Firstly, Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Vladdy. Oh, my goodness. I like Vladdy. He's having a strong year. This is the bounce-back year they needed. Put him at 3, Dave.
3?
Give me Vladdy at 3.
You're going to be good at this. I can already see. That's brutal. Next up, Juan Soto.
Oh, put him at, he's a top 5 player this year, probably. I'll say I don't trust you. You used Aaron Judge on me last time. I'm going to say put him at 1. Okay.
Next up, Rafael Devers. Baby-faced assassin.
4. There's only one baby-faced assassin I like, and it's Steph Curry.
Good reference. Oh, my. Bobby Witt.
Oh, Bobby Witt. He signed a good deal for himself.
Yes, he did.
He's doing well. I like Bobby Witt. More valuable position than Vladdy. Let's put Bobby Witt at 2.
2. So this puts your number 5. I think you're not going to mind this list. Your cousin, jokes aside, Connor Henderson.
Gunner. Okay. Well, Gunner's good. You know what? That's fine.
So 1, you got Soto. 2, you got Bobby Witt. 3, Vlad. 4, Rafael. 5, Gunner.
I'll take it.
That's a good list. Next up, number 2. Another 5 coming at you. Okay. Yordan Alvarez.
Oh, jeez. I couldn't tell you one thing about this dude. Put him at 4.
Ronald Acuna.
Put him in a cell. I don't know. Put him at 3.
3. Bryce Harper.
My boy, 2. Bryce, 2 for Bryce.
Jose Ramirez.
Oh,
you got 1 and 5 left.
Give me the 5. Bryce is overrated. Or sorry, the 1. Put him at 1. Put him at 1.
Freddie Freeman's your number 5. So you got Jose Ramirez, Bryce Harper, Ronald Acuna, Yordan Alvarez, and Freddie Freeman. That's 2 good lists. Good rotation. Connor, he must see my screen or something. I don't know what's going on. He doesn't. I promise you that.
I'm sweating, Dave.
Got it. Next up, your opinion. AL MVP, Judge or Soto?
It's got to be Judge. He's leading in just about every single category. Soto, I mean, having a great year. And if you wanted to like build your franchise around a 25-year-old who's doing super well, Soto's your guy. Judge is 32. But Judge has more power. He has more average. He drives in more runs. He's got a higher WAR. He plays a valuable position in the outfield. It's got to be Judge.
Does Soto stay with the Yankees at the end of this year? Does he sign a big deal and stay with the Yankees?
Oh, yeah.
Like an Ohtani level deal, or is it less?
It's not Ohtani level, I don't think. No.
That's good.
No.
Logo quiz. Now, I'm not going to give you a blind ranking for this. The logos, I'm going to list them, and you're just going to rank them 1 to 5. Okay?
Okay.
Toronto Blue Jays, Oakland Athletics, New York Yankees, Philadelphia Phillies, San Francisco Giants. That's 4. I can't count on my end.
That's
and
5.
Baltimore. Is that Jays, A's, Phillies? I cannot tell. That is 5. That is 5. I can't count. I'm throwing a 6 in there. Orioles. That's the 6. I had 6 down. So go from 1 to 6.
Okay, I'm putting that dumb-looking bird from the Orioles 6th. All right? Okay. There's no shot in hell that the Orioles bird is cooler than the Blue Jays, so it has to be lower than that. We're going Orioles 6.
Okay.
I'm going to put A's at 5. I mean, their color scheme is iconic, but their logo's pretty mid. Did you have the Giants on there?
Giants, yep.
I'm sticking them at 4.
Okay. Yeah, Yankees, Phillies, Jays left.
Okay, so the Yankee pinstripes are iconic, but the letter NY is just pretty mid. We're going to stick them at 3. I've got the Jays coming in at 2, and the Philadelphia Phillies for all the wrong reasons, because I've already destroyed the idea of just a letter. Will make me a big hypocrite, and I'm going to put them 1.
So you got the Phillies 1, Jays 2, you got the Yankees 3, you got the Giants 4, A's 5, Orioles 6. And yes, that is 6, and I thought I only had 5. We throw curveballs here on Strike Zone, no pun intended. Last one-off question about men's league baseball. What is the strongest position in men's league? Not pitcher. Can't say a pitcher. Men's league strongest position and weakest position. Where do you put your strongest player and where do you put your weakest player?
Oh boy. Okay. So let me do some. There's so many different answers to this question.
No right? Pitcher or catcher though. I'm not letting you put catcher or pitcher. So I said pitcher, but I got to include catcher on there because I know catcher is very valuable too. So pitcher and catcher is out. You can't put them there.
All right. Here's the truth. All right. Shortstop should be the most valuable position because it's athletic, but it's also toolsy. You can stick an athlete in center field, but you can't always put a center fielder at short. Now, outfield by design is more valuable than first base, than the corner infield. So if I'm trying to hide a bad player, if they can catch the ball, I'll just shove them at first. Because they don't have to throw, they don't have to move, they just have to stand there and catch. All right, and if they can't do that, then I'll stick them at third. you know, a lot of people will tell you left field is the least important position, but I mean, at the end of the day, if you're in left field, you're covering the same amount of ground as right and center. Your most important positions are up the middle. So
Yep.
I would rank it shortstop 1, center field 2, second base 3, the corner outfields 4 and 5, and then either third or first last, because you have to be able to catch. Otherwise, it is what it is. It's game over.
I agree. Now, if pitcher and catcher was a thing, pitcher would be number 1. You got to have a strong pitcher in men's league. If you got someone who I'm not going to name that plays here in the Sioux that's very good at pitching, you're going to win a lot of ball games. Okay.
I know pitching's the biggest equalizer.
Yeah, it is. And I had to ask that because if you're playing men's league baseball, so if it's slow pitch, fast playoffs is going on, and it just made sense for me to bring up something one-off that isn't professional to Connor. Okay.
And I'll say something that's really key too, because the value of first base changes heavily based on the level of competition you're playing.
Yeah.
Typically, the younger you are, the more important first base is, and the older you get, the less and less and less important it gets. Now, open league men's baseball is a different beast because there's huge skill gaps in the players playing, you need to have skill at positions where there's a lot of plays, and almost every play involves first base. In a league where a lot of people are hitting it on the ground, so you can't just put a plug at first base. But generally, like in regular baseball, first base is definitely a lower valued position. But in men's league, it probably is a little bit higher than what I gave it credit for.
Oh, see, was that a good one-off? I told you. And Connor does not know what these questions are. He knows what they are, but he doesn't know who I'm going to ask. Okay, and that was my one-off. So you did 2 blind ranking for player rankings. You also did your opinion for AL MVP. I left out NL for a reason. That's next. That's another episode. And logo rankings, but I gave you them. And then a little men's league fun little tab because, of course, baseball season's coming to an end if you play in your local area. So we like to have fun. And that's how Connor and I got closer, was because of recreational baseball. So it felt fitting to do something like that here on the show. Okay, it just made complete sense. All right, Connor, look, you know what? I've had a dream to always do a show at the Rogers Center. I've always wanted to. And they have a thing with the Blue Jays called Work from the Dome. Okay. And I was going to look at arranging something this year, including when it comes to our media passes, but I didn't. The fit wasn't there, too busy from when I'm going, etc. And the dates didn't line up. But going forward, my idea is maybe next year we can do a Work from the Dome from the Rogers Center. I would like to have people's opinion on that. If me and you are at the Rogers Center and there's fans walking by, if I'm on and you're on, and we're talking, people are waving in the background, they don't know what it is. I feel like that'd be something fun. So you, as listeners of the game, let us know if you think that's a good idea or if you think that is a bad idea, because we might not get any work done. But I think that would be something fun to do. So I just want to throw that little fun thing out there for you to kind of stir on and think about for next year. Maybe have listeners let us know what they think below.
That sounds fun.
It would be fun. And while I'm sitting there having a hot dog or popcorn or what, it would be absolutely.
Dave, would we be doing a dog and inning challenge live on air?
See, we could do a live stream and do things like that. Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be so fun. So fun. Okay, Connor, I appreciate you, man. You know what? Obviously, we talked about updates. We had some rankings, and now we have some clips until we have our vacation. So I hope you have a good next couple weeks. I'll certainly keep you updated as the men's league playoffs, as I mentioned, is going on. The 91N Pandas, which is of course, powered by 91 Network. That's what the game is the defending champions. Okay, and now I just got to bring it in here. Okay, here it is. Here is the champs right here, and I'm bringing it into the camera. At the bottom, this would be this bottom right here, 2022, J.J. Bergman, who is now on the other side, was the MVP for 91N Pandas. And then, of course, Stephen Fabro last year. And I'm sorry about some other names that may not want their name on there being shown, but they were. So this is the trophy.
Dave, I don't know how in 2016, that Colton Reed fellow, I don't know how he managed to get his MVP on there. I talked to him about that the other day. He had no idea. I think that name should say 2016 Connor Henderson, but I don't know who's on the voting panel that year, but teach their own.
Oh, we can get that changed if the Pandas win again, which would be the first one on this side or this side, because it's time to spin the trophy around here, of course. And if you're wondering why there's a year delay, it's because of COVID. Okay, that's why people are wondering if we can't count. Yes, we can. It's just because of COVID. So this is the trophy that the Pandas are defending, back-to-back champions. And I want to hear your men's league stories. Have you won this year? And I hope in the next couple of weeks that this trophy is still on display here in the Game Sports Podcast 91N office. If not, it might be going to other hands. But I thought I would show that. Okay.
Best of luck with wishing my best of luck to the team, Dave. They're undefeated with me off the roster, so let's hope that streak continues going into the playoffs this year.
We can use some Henderson spirit, man. I'm telling you that right now. Would love to have you back for a game if you're ever up when we play. That'd be great. Connor, thank you so much for your time, my friend. And we'll be back after Labor Day, of course, because you know why we'll be back? A couple reasons. Because of what baseball season's at. But, of course, because it's a holiday. So, of course, we're going to have you on because it's a holiday.
It's what we do.
So fun. Okay. All right, Connor, thank you to you. And, of course, thank you to you, all the listeners and viewers here on the Game Sports Podcast. Making sure I remind you as well, hit like, subscribe, and interact with all the platforms. The game is everywhere, okay? 91 Network YouTube channel. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcast, anywhere you search us. Make sure you search The Game Sports, highlight that S, Podcast, and you'll find us. We got a GS as our logo. If it's your first time on there looking for us, if you know who we are, great. Make sure you're interacting. We had a very neat comment from a fan the other day who said he loved Alex Parr's hat, and his dad is an avid watcher of the show. I don't know who he is. Love that feedback. It makes the work for us know that despite the views that we get, that we love the interaction, so don't be shy to do that. I'm here to remind you, keep your stick on the ice, swing your bats, catch your touchdowns, drain your threes, and shoot your shots. Booyah.